Seeing how much the gaming market is worth, it might make things seem like they're going great, but the state of the gaming industry is bad.
Is the game fun bad at least? No, it's just like actually super f***ing boring. Will you finish it? No. I will not.
Back-to-back stinkers have been released by AAA developers with millions of dollars of budget. Makes it extremely difficult to care. We're talking Redfall, Forspoken, Jedi Survivor, Halo Infinite, Overwatch 2, like the list goes on. Release after release, games come out unfinished, uninspired, and they continue to price gouge us. Maybe the trailers of these games were cool. Maybe the history of the developers and what they've made before got you excited about a new project. Or maybe you thought this time things will be different. Some of us are in an abusive relationship with the video game industry. But it really makes you think, why would you ever go out and buy a new console, a new computer, upgrade possibly your graphics cards when you see that these are the games that are releasing? Especially when the PC gaming hardware market is looking so grim and unexciting when you see what Nvidia and AMD are putting out right now. It doesn't just go for the video games themselves. With all of this said, gaming might be in the worst state it ever has been before. Developers, publishers, or a combination of the both regularly put out unfinished games and then apologize for the games that they just put out and charge $70 for.
Next Gen Gaming Starter Pack. Apology statement after releasing the games in a broken state.
Franchises that we used to think innovated have turned into uninspired, unapologetic cash grabs, all in the name of greed and stagnation. This doesn't speak for everything or every game that releases. I'm just mainly talking about most of the AAA game market, which has been seeing a downward trend of degeneracy.
I'm seeing freaking dragons, and oh yeah, I'm talking to a cop.
Especially in the past few years. And this is no rose-tinted glasses type of stuff. It is hard to see like a studio like Arcane, hailing from games like Dishonored and even Deathloop from just 2021, making a game like Redfall. The AI in Redfall was downright embarrassing.
Can they actually just not get around obstacles? Get behind something and they'll never be able to figure it out.
And so was the AI in Deathloop, which they fixed because people complained about it.
What is the biggest problem with this game? It's the AI.
But then they released Redfall with bad AI, so I don't know why they did this. Redfall also had so many bugs at launch.
I love how he says, I can do this forever. I think that's the best part. Wow. This looks like a great game, guys.
The multiplayer, which was one of the main selling points of the game, to be able to survive against vampires with your friends and go on missions, was also bugged, which is ridiculous. Surprisingly, Redfall was very unoptimized given the graphical fidelity.
So overall, honestly, I think the performance has been pretty good. It's really the game itself and just like that I'm less impressed with, and just kind of what it, you know, it look like I said, it looks okay.
They even locked it to 30 FPS on console. Glad on PC that we could play this masterpiece at above 30 FPS. This masterpiece. If all that about Redfall doesn't scream unfinished, I don't really know what would convince you. And then they asked $70 for this at launch.
The game itself is very uninspired amalgamation of very different co-op shooters that manages to not get any of them right. That being said, the exploration is bland, the shooting is blander, story and characters exist as much as my self-worth does.
It's really funny to think that when I got one of their previous really, really good games, which doesn't even look that much worse visually, and that is Dishonored, I got that game for $2.79. Great PC port as well. Let's move on to Forspoken, which was published by Square Enix, you know, the company that is really praised for a lot of artistic games that they put out and have a really good reputation. Then Forspoken was developed by Luminous Productions. This game also ran poorly, and this is a common trend with all of these $1 million+ budget AAA games that are coming out. They're unoptimized and bad at launch. Forspoken also had some of the worst writing and characters in gaming history.
I just moved it with my freaking mind! Yeah, okay, that is something I do now.
The most important part of the game is probably the start to get people to want to play it. Forspoken had a terrible beginning and it was super slow. Yes, there is an argument to say that not every game from even the best of developers that are out there, say like Arcane or Square Enix as a publisher, that these games are always going to be incredible. But you do have an expectation of quality from people that have built up a really good reputation for themselves. It does seem to be a trend. Many people might say, don't buy a game on day one, which is just a bad argument because you pay for the game and you do expect the game to function when you buy it. That isn't an unreasonable expectation, especially when AAA games are $70 plus nowadays. So first off, yeah, if you're expecting the best performance, don't expect it on day one. But if studios release a game that is terribly optimized and runs poorly on everything day one, this doesn't just affect the people buying it, but this sets a reputation for the game that it was bad. Hard to break that stigma that if you just released a game in a better state, even if you delayed the launch to make it more optimized, and it would be much better in the grand scheme of things. You'll see that EA and Respawn, the studio that made the game, did apologize for this right off the bat, actually in the same day. And now they're rolling out patches to help this situation, help the performance. Why didn't you delay the launch of the game just for a month? Especially when the developers knew before it launched, it's easy to tell that it has performance problems, and yet they released the game in that state. The same kind of situation happened with Hogwarts Legacy, which also dropped with horrible optimization, is in the same boat right now, being fixed over time with bunch of patches. Despite this though, both of these games, Hogwarts and Jedi Survivor, even though they're unoptimized, the games were still fun. So you can kind of overlook it a little bit. Even though we don't like to see a game dropping like that, it was not that bad all considered because at least the gameplay carries. We really can't say the same for a game like Halo Infinite, whose problem is having a content drought. It's really hard to see Halo as a franchise or as a game, just a new game like Infinite, just crumble. Obviously, it's gone over a bunch of new development with new studios like 343, but you look at Halo's history and you look at like even the last probably really solid Halo game is Halo Reach, you look at Halo 3, Halo 2, all of these bangers that are in its history, its legacy, and just to see Halo Infinite come out as a game that is so uninspired and it just tries to copy the industry. They put a battle pass in it, they go free to play, they get rid of the campaign, a bunch of things that made Halo Halo. Because it's being plagued by the issue that the whole gaming industry is being plagued by. And that is, well, the gaming industry is an industry now. It has investors. It has its own politics. Crazy to think about. This is bigger than just the games. A lot of management and supervision time is probably being spent on that, halting production of a lot of games that are coming out right now. The gaming industry, I'm pretty sure last year, made more money than the music industry. There is power going on here, and we're starting to see that manifest. Not to mention, it feels like the creativity for games is gone, at least on the AAA side of things, which really what do you expect? But so many games that are coming out are remakes. Like look at Resident Evil 4 remake. Not to say it was a bad remake, but it's still a remake. Same with a game like MW2, and they remade Modern Warfare, you know? Where is the creativity? That kind of leads us into Overwatch 2, which was released early. Even though, at least for me personally, I really love Overwatch 2, I'm experiencing what most people experienced with the original Overwatch in 2016. And that's why I'm enjoying Overwatch 2 right now. For Overwatch 2, Blizzard just decided to focus on the PvP instead of actually releasing Overwatch 2, which how it was meant to be released with the PvE elements. Were probably pressured by the industry to finally get something out there. Like, they hadn't really released much in Overwatch content in years, and the game was dying, so they felt like they had to do something. The list just goes on though, with the disappointments with the game releases. Why should you really play games right now? Why should you get into gaming when there's so little to like? So is gaming dead? I mean, you see people are still playing games very heavily. Every day you see top player counts on Steam for games that are nearly a decade old now. So much so, when people talk about how expensive graphics cards are for the PC gaming market, I actually always recommend that things are surprisingly affordable, because you can buy budget cards and play at 1080p and really get away with it, because most people don't even play the latest games anyways. They play games that are years and years old, that aren't that graphically demanding, that can run on just about everything. So many people have just turned away from the big budget AAA games in favor of independent studios. Like, for me personally, I love games like Raft and Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight Silksong is gonna be coming out, which is really exciting. Those get me more hyped up than a lot of the AAA games that come out that almost just feel like cookie cutters or copies of each other. The market feels stale. Like, when is there going to be a next big game? Seems like developers need to stop just focusing on the graphical fidelity of games, trying to make them as realistic as possible, and instead focus on making the gameplay fun. And maybe that could steer the ship around and get people excited about games again. Because we can't have games like Forspoken releasing, boasting really cool technology that we've never seen before on PC, like direct storage, only for it to just be a completely waste of that technology. Why couldn't more of that development time or budget been put into how they deliver the story or how they write the characters? All we can do as consumers is not buy into the things that we don't like. Okay, don't support these companies. And Redfall is a great example of this. Barely anybody is playing that game. That means, it sold terribly. We can't give into the industry trends that we don't like. Like, Moist Critical did a great video about Jedi Survivor that, like, hey,
this trend of push it out now, fix it later is garbage. I hate it. And anyone who has that take of like, oh, it's so entitled to expect a game to work when you pay $70 for it, I'd say that take isn't worth a doggone set of donuts. The game, when you buy it, should work. It should be functional. It should be in a good state. That shouldn't be a hot take. So yes, the worst part of Jedi Survivor is the performance. Everything you've read is accurate for the majority of people who are going to be playing the game.
But us as consumers, we need to not buy into that. We need to make reviews. We need to leave reviews on Steam pages or wherever we can to show that we don't like this trend and not reward the developers or publishers. And then we need to support the companies that we like. Support the companies that are doing good things. Show that the industry should be trending in that direction, because we as consumers, in the end, have the power. Just have to execute that power. How the industry is right now is kind of embarrassing. So hopefully we can change things and make it better for the long term, and things can go in a good direction. Anyways, that's all I had to say. So hopefully you enjoyed this and it sparked some thoughts in your heads. We can chat in the comments and stuff. I'll see you guys in the comment section. I'll see you in the next video, and you have a good one. Peace.